The rejection happened quietly, which somehow made it louder than a slap. It arrived wrapped in tinsel and fairy lights, in a cafe glowing with Christmas warmth, when she realized she was sitting alone at a table meant for two, watching couples laugh while snow pressed its pale face against the windows. In that moment, with a mug growing cold between her hands and a chair across from her that would never be filled, she felt the old ache return, the one that whispered she was always almost chosen but never quite enough. What she did not know was that this small, humiliating ending was about to open into something far larger, something that would change not just her Christmas night, but the quiet shape of her life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one small moment can rewrite a person's story, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. She had almost cancelled the blind date that morning. The message confirming the cafe, the time, and the polite enthusiasm of a man she had never met had sat unread for hours while she stared at the ceiling of her small apartment. At 32, she had grown tired in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with disappointment. Her name was Clara, and she worked in a public library where she spent her days returning misplaced books to their shelves and watching other people's stories resolve themselves neatly by the final chapter. Her own life felt like a book with too many loose pages and no clear ending. Still, it was Christmas week, the season that insisted on hope whether you wanted it or not, so she dressed carefully, wrapped herself in a wool coat she had owned for years, and went. The cafe was the kind of place designed to make loneliness stand out. Pine garlands lined the walls, soft carols hummed in the background, and the smell of cinnamon and coffee hung thick in the air. Clara arrived early, choosing a table near the window so she could watch the street and distract herself. She checked her phone, straightened her scarf, and practiced breathing through the nervous flutter in her chest. Minutes passed. Then more. She sent a polite message, careful not to sound anxious. The reply came quickly, too quickly, with an apology that felt rehearsed and a vague excuse about realizing he was not ready after all. There was no offer to reschedule, no curiosity about her disappointment. Just a clean withdrawal, like erasing chalk from a board. She sat there longer than she should have, because standing up would mean admitting what had happened. Around her, life continued. A young couple shared a pastry. An older man laughed with a woman who reached across the table to squeeze his hand. Clara focused on the way the lights blurred through the moisture in her eyes and reminded herself that she was used to this. She paid for the untouched drink, wrapped her hands around the warmth for a moment longer, and considered leaving. That was when she noticed the man a few tables away, not because he was trying to be noticed, but because of the child beside him. The little girl was no more than 6, with a head of curls escaping from a red knit hat and boots that did not quite touch the floor as she swung her legs. She was drawing something with intense focus, tongue caught between her teeth, while the man watched her with an expression that mixed exhaustion and devotion. He looked out of place and completely at home at the same time, a single father navigating a world that rarely made space for the messiness of real life. His coat was worn at the edges, his eyes carried shadows, but there was a gentleness in the way he leaned toward his daughter that made Clara look twice. She did not see him stand until he was already there, close enough that she could smell the cold on his coat and the faint scent of peppermint. He did not intrude, he simply gestured to the empty chair and asked, not with words but with an open, hopeful expression, whether they could join her. It was an unexpected kindness, one that acknowledged her aloneness without pitying it. Clara hesitated, then nodded, surprised at herself. What followed did not feel like a rescue, and that was what made it powerful. The man introduced himself as Matthew in a simple, unremarkable way, and his daughter as Lucy, who proudly slid her drawing across the table as if presenting a masterpiece. Clara found herself smiling genuinely for the first time that evening. They did not ask why she was alone, and she did not explain. Instead, the table became a small island of warmth in the middle of the cafe, a place where awkwardness softened into ease. Clara learned that Matthew had lost his wife 2 years earlier, not suddenly but slowly, through an illness that drained color from their lives long before it took her away. Christmas had been hard since then, especially for Lucy, who still expected magic and deserved it. As the minutes passed, Clara felt something inside her loosen. She listened more than she spoke, absorbing the rhythms of their small family, the way Matthew balanced attentiveness with weariness, the way Lucy leaned against his arm without thinking. Clara had always believed she was good with people because she worked with books, but this felt different. It felt like being allowed into a living story, one that was still being written. The cafe noise faded into a gentle blur, and for the first time that day, the sting of rejection dulled. They stayed longer than planned, long enough for the sky outside to darken fully and the lights inside to glow brighter. When they finally stood to leave, Matthew thanked her with sincerity that made her chest ache, as if she had given them something precious simply by being there. Clara stepped back into the cold with them, the night sharp and clean, snow beginning to fall in earnest. They parted ways with a warmth that lingered, and Clara walked home feeling strangely lighter, as if the weight she had carried for years had shifted just enough to let her breathe. In the days that followed, she thought of them often. Christmas Eve arrived wrapped in the usual quiet of her apartment, but it no longer felt oppressive. She volunteered for extra hours at the library, helped a neighbor carry groceries, and allowed herself small kindnesses she had long denied. On Christmas morning, she received a message from an unknown number, a simple note wishing her peace and thanking her again for that night. It was signed with both names, Matthew and Lucy, as if they were already a unit she was meant to recognize. They met again by accident, or perhaps not at all by accident, at a community tree lighting a week later. Lucy ran toward Clara as if greeting an old friend, and Matthew followed with a smile that carried both gratitude and something else, something tentative and hopeful. This time, Clara did not feel like an outsider stepping into someone else's world. She felt invited. They walked together among the lights, the air full of laughter and breath clouds, and Clara realized that the quiet courage it took to show up on a blind date that might fail was the same courage it took to stay open afterward. What grew between them was not fast or dramatic. It unfolded in small, deliberate moments, shared coffees, afternoons at the library where Lucy curled up with picture books, conversations that acknowledged pain without letting it define everything. Clara learned that Matthew struggled with guilt, the constant fear that moving forward meant leaving something behind. Matthew learned that Clara's gentleness was hard-earned, shaped by years of being overlooked and choosing kindness anyway. Together, they built something that felt honest, something that did not erase the past but made room for the future.